Everything human is culturally specific. What this means is that all human creations, from clothing to food to gestures, housing, speech, games, and of course music, reflects a group-specific worldview. Another aspect of this reality is that whenever something new enters a culture, it is remade, reconfigured, reshaped to make it fit the lives and thinking of the people who are absorbing it. The process of adapting existing entities to fit a new cultural or historical context is called localization or indigenization. Within music, the list of examples is both long and perhaps not so well known. The Nigerian Afrobeat tradition of Fela Kuti is a direct result of adapting the repetitive grooves of American James Brown, the godfather of soul, into the percussive and politically volatile climate of West Africa. The new is incorporated and altered until it takes a form meaningful within the receiving context. The process may occur not only across widely dispersed cultural boundaries, but also within a single culture. African American music, without question the most influential musical corpus in human history, is not some stable, monolithic block, but has been reinvented continually as, for example, hip-hop emerged as existing styles like hard bop, jazz, blues, and funk were reimagined within the context of post-industrial urban decay, racism, and economic disadvantage. New realities, whether social, historical, or political, necessitate a reimagining of existing cultural forms. The world will forever continue to change, and music, just like life in general, has no choice but to evolve in a corresponding fashion. As a form of music, techno is defined first and foremost by its abstraction. It is a systematic effort to decompose and fragment musical codes into atomic amorphous forms, thereby releasing and revealing underlying primordial intensities that lead away from codified, corrupt corporate ways of life. What must be held in mind, however, is that this abstract core of techno is manifest in different ways depending on which cultural context it enters. In Detroit, it took on the Afrofuturism predominant at the time. In Berlin, it took on characteristic Teutonic precision combined with the unbridled energy of a society emerging from 40 years of political division. In both cases, the music remains abstract but bears the unmistakable imprint of the cultural context. What about Latin cultures, the Italians, the Spanish, the French, and the Latin Americans? Something a lot of techno clubbers might not realize is that the Latin world is the current powerhouse of global techno music, the places from which the most innovative, intense, and overwhelming sounds are coming from. What are the unique attributes of this family of cultures, and what might we expect when they soak in abstract techno? While each national culture of course varies in important ways, as a group we can say that Latin cultures are known for their expressivity, drama, noisiness, passion, as well as a vibrant spirituality and rituality inherited from centuries of Catholic Christianity. While geographically dispersed, the Latin cultural family is also known for a healthy distrust of politicians and governmentality, a perspective fueled by decades of nepotism, corruption, and misconduct. Latin America has also been subject to numerous military dictatorships, serving only to further intensify the will to resistance. When the deeply abstract force of techno is filtered through this cultural and historical context, what is created is a uniquely Latin brand of techno that mirrors all of the attributes described above. It is noisy, like a wall of sound. It possesses a rich, though wild expressivity and a deeply anarchic, anti-authoritarian streak. We can also say that more so than any other regional techno tradition, the Latin sound points toward the spiritual world, the world of souls, shadows, and dreams, as reflected in the heady aesthetics and track titles. In today's techno scene, it is no exaggeration to say that Latin artists are the most powerful force shaping the genre's aesthetic. The flamboyant, chaotic, in-your-face, raw characteristics of the Latin sound, which are both culturally grounded and perfectly adapted to the turbulent times in which we live, have become a heralding cry for producers the world over. Our times demand radically subversive music that blatantly announces its departure from the degraded values of late capitalism, and the Latin sound is this cry. One producer at the apex of this artistic eruption is Italian dynamo Pyramidal Decode. Without question, his pulverizing, suffocating productions have exerted a significant influence upon the development of the Latin techno sound, and by extension, the genre of techno as a whole. Pyramidal Decode is a sculptor of sonic insanity. The track that initially drew me to his music, and the track that I think encapsulates his sound and his musical philosophy, is El Manicomio, which means the mental hospital, released last year on Semantica. This track, like countless of his other productions, is an ode to insanity, a densely layered, oppressive ensemble of textured percussion, on top of which is placed a crazed, constantly shifting synth line. The track, and his work as a whole, uses rhythm and sound not as points of anchorage or safety, but rather as tools to productively disorient, confuse, and deconstruct the listener. His creative output has not only been incessant and innovative, but the labels he has recorded for are held in the highest regard within the scene. Not content with releasing his productions on external outlets, in September last year he started his own label, PHYR Records. The label has released 3 EPs to date, 2 various artist compilations, and 1 EP from Pyramidal Decode himself. We begin our conversation with him by discussing the origins of his rather unique artist name. Where did the idea for that name come from?
Basically the idea came very spontaneously. I was exporting one of my first basically techno track because I had many other alias which I was using to make and release dub techno or more deep oriented stuff. So I was doing this kind of techno project, and I was seeing like a documentary about pyramids. So then I decided they were kind of trying to find the meaning about all the hieroglyphics, etc. So I thought, okay, Pyramidal Decode, let me save this project as Pyramidal Decode. Yeah, so I was just watching a documentary and then I felt inspired by that.
You, like, in terms of your career, I mean, you started making techno productions like seriously around like 2017, is that correct?
I did my first release when I was 13, 14, maybe maximum years old. Then after that, I spent like 4 years doing dub techno. I had another name called Orted. And then I decided to go with more techno, more mental stuff. I started, I guess, almost 10 years ago, this new project.
Wow.
I feel it's the one that represents me the most.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the dub techno was the first style of techno that kind of grabbed you. I mean, I'm just asking because the other producers who I've spoken to, I think almost all of them have said that dub techno was the first techno that they got into.
Yeah, I mean, probably when I was young, it was one of the first things from Berlin, I would say, I heard. So basically, since in Italy, it's not very common to listen techno. I mean, we have a lot of techno producers, etc., but it's not the most popular style. Like 10 years ago, when I was getting closer to techno, basically I guess I was listening a lot of dub techno because it was the first thing that was coming out on YouTube, for example. So for basic channels and all that kind of milestones were always coming out on YouTube. So I started to explore that kind of rhythm, and I felt very good once I was listening that kind of music because it's super mental as well. It's super static, only a few instruments, so it's as well super minimalistic. This is what I almost love into any kind of techno. Started with dub techno, and then I found myself into more hypnotic, more mental, with more hard grooves.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think like what you're talking about, like I think those qualities of techno, I think, are the ones that really are attractive to people, you know, like with house music or pop music, you have melodies and choruses and, you know, musical elements, but like with techno, it's very abstract.
Yeah. There's no section, no metrical, no nothing. You're free to, usually we just need a nice kick, a rolling low hand, and then you can do whatever you want on top. It should be quite easy then to arrange a techno or at least electronic track, because techno is all about experimentation, so you can really play with noises, you can play with glitches, you can play with whatever you want. And once you have a nice low end, then people are gonna dance. Few elements usually are enough.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, that's a really interesting point, because, you know, you need a really high quality low end, like quality kick and quality rumble, but not everyone knows how to do that. Like, it's a minimalist genre, but not all techno is good techno. You know, there are people who know how to do it good and people who don't know how to do it. So
I mean, there's a lot of sound design as well. We need you have to be quite skilled. It's not super easy. It's still something we I mean, not everyone, but many of us can do, but it's super important in the low end to keep it super clean and to do a nice sound design, because it's our base. It's our, if you have a very solid low end, then on the dance floor, your music 100% is gonna be very powerful. It's gonna make people dancing.
One of the things that I really like about doing this series is that I get to really go deep into an artist's music. And I mean, for your music, I knew about you before, and I loved your tracks, and I've been playing your tracks, but when I started to really seriously look at your music, I could see you've really like produced a lot of music in the last like 2 years, especially, like a lot of releases, and all of them are on like really top labels. How do you keep up so much like creative work?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I'm pretty happy. I'm super happy you enjoyed my last works. Basically, as many of my supporters already know, I used to make music with only Ableton. I have many instruments, I have many synthesizer modulars, but I don't use them for my production. Basically, I really love to create instrument racks and FX racks, or maybe Max 4 Live patches, something a bit more, not advanced, but a bit more for nerds, I would say, because you have to really spend a lot of time on Ableton just with your keyboard and your mouse for programming things.
Yeah.
Once I create my instrument, I can really play with something I created and something that will create only sounds I like. So basically, I create my patches as you will do with a modular system, and then I start to randomize my patches. It's something I can do with just a few clicks. So sometimes in the right day, when I have a good day for production, I can manage doing 3-4 tracks in a day. And since I do music only in my life, I live by music, I spend more than 6 hours every day into the studio.
Wow.
And I have my workflow, which I show in the masterclass. I have this kind of workflow that really helps me to create a lot of tracks in just few days, maybe. It's very important because I can keep my own signature sound without losing my my color. It's easier for me because I can do it everywhere I am, because I use only my laptop. Then I have a nice studio monitor here, I have a nice acoustic, but when I'm traveling, I can just use my headphones and make music the same way I do in my studio. I think that the key is my workflow. I had the chance to make so much tracks, so many EPs, only because I'm very fast into arranging my mental ideas. Because many times it's easy to make a song in your brain, but then it's hard to make it concrete, to make it realistic, to realize the song, the track. Yeah. So in my case, it's super easy to make this because I have everything already configured, already mapped. I'm like a dentist with all the things you need, very close to him. So everything is super handy. I can really do whatever I want in 10-15 minutes maximum.
Wow, that's super
That's
cool.
the key for me. Then once I'm not inspired, well, sometimes I'm gonna take inspiration from my rocks, so I can randomize the patch, and maybe I'm gonna find the inspiration into that new preset, random preset I created. Sometimes, well, it's not the day. It happens to, you open, you can turn on your synthesizer, you can open Ableton, you can take your guitar, you can do whatever you want, but sometimes your body, your brain, you won't be maybe ready to make music that day. I don't know.
In terms of the meaning of your music and the philosophy behind it, you already a couple of times you've referred to it as mental techno.
Yeah.
And I think, listening to your music, and also when you see the names of the tracks, there does seem to be a focus on sanity, consciousness, craziness. So is that something that you're deliberately trying to explore?
Well, I play many instruments. I play guitars, I play a bit of drums, I play a bit of piano, I play bass. The thing that really attracts me of techno is finding something I never heard. So basically, I feel like I am a producer, but sometimes I feel like a sound researcher. I like to research sounds. I like to research like new environments, new sonic realms. I make I do other projects, I do other style, but when I do techno, the important thing for me is trying to find something that is unexpected for me. That's my research. So once I find something that really is taking my attention, then that's good for me. The mental aspect is because I struggle to find something we never heard. I struggle to find something we never did. Then I just leave myself free to do whatever I want, and then it arrives. It arrives, the inspiration, and it's about, I really like to find a super hypnotical sound. I really like to kind of meditate once I made them. For me, my tracks are almost ready when they can hypnotize me. So I need that mental state.
With your sound, it's like quite extreme as well, in a good way. Like it's like extremely experimental, and the sound, like the aesthetic, the sonic elements are very extreme. They're like really experimental. You're not just making music which is, comfortable and safe and easy to listen to. It's really pushing your mind.
Usually I don't listen to techno. During my normal day, I'm listening to jazz music, I'm listening to other kind of styles. When I want to listen to techno, I do my techno. So actually, I don't know. I used to listen promo, for example, but I'm not that kind of fan of the promo system. So I'm not every day checking 20,000 promos. I'm not really digging a lot of music. Instead, I'm doing a lot of music. So once I really have in my mind something that has a very strong kick and the gallop low end, I just make it. So I have no comparison about how extreme or how safe sometimes my music is. Feels for me personal. Actually, after many years, I can recognize my music quite easily. I can recognize my gallop on the low end. I can recognize all the noises, but there's no way I kind of sit on my chair in the studio thinking about I'm gonna do something less safe or more safer. For me, since I'm not listening a lot of techno, I don't really know what's happening.
That's really interesting.
So I just do my music, and then sometimes once I do some comparison with other artists' music, I feel like there are so many differences. That's why, that's the reason why sometimes in my set, I play almost only my music, or I don't play my music.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes my music is quite different from the other tracks I have, and it's sometimes hard for me to mix it. that's why I feel very surprised once I see so many DJs playing my music, because for me it's impossible to mix my track with someone else's track. I don't know. Right. It's easier for me to play 2-hour solo of my music, playing only my music, than playing my music mixed with other artists' music, because many times I feel they are quite different.
And so, like, in terms of your methodology, in terms of how you actually make the music, are you more of like a practical person where you're just playing around with machines and you see what starts to work, or do you sometimes start with an idea or an image in your mind and then kind of try and make music out of that? How do you go about making your music?
Well, most of the time, whenever I try to make something strong, I end up with something very deep. And the opposite. So if I set myself saying, okay, Francesco, now let's make a very deep metal track, then after 2 minutes, I need to make it faster. I need to ruin completely the original idea. I don't know why it happens, but it happens almost every time. So if I sit in my studio trying to say, let's make a track with the sci-fi sequences, then I don't know, I kind of destroy it. I just prefer to sit in the studio to play a bit. But this is because I guess that since I played for many years the guitar, and I'm a big fan of blues and jazz music. Great. I really like to jam. So I'm not sitting in my studio saying, okay, I'm gonna record this sequence I have in my mind. I just prefer to play a bit with everything I have, since something happens.
Yeah, but no, I mean, that makes sense, because I think, I mean, not only with music, but I guess with like things like painting or writing, sometimes if you try to plan it, you can sometimes you can remove the spontaneity and you remove the creativity from the process. But if you just start and let it happen, then the most creative, exciting material can come out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess that after many years, you get mature with the sound, with your skills. After you get very skilled, I guess you can be able to make whatever you want as well, if you're not super inspired. But if you know how to make it, sometimes you can make a normal pattern every time. I mean, it's not super. You don't need inspiration to make a 4/4 kick. It just, you know how to make it. So sometimes I think that this thing will pass, but I'm not sure, because still after more than 10 years making music, I still feel that it's impossible for me to plan to make something and realize it. It's just easier for me to go with the flow and wait that magic happens, if happens.
In September last year, you started your own record label. It's the spelling is PHYR. Is it PHYR?
Because it's connected to my real name. Since pyramid in the original languages comes from pyro, which is the fire. So pyramids were the shape of the fire, because usually when you light up a fire, it goes like in a triangular direction. That's why I called the label PHYR. I kept the spelling with the PH just because fire normal was already used in other labels and it was more similar to my name. So PHYR, the spelling is like the fire.
Wow, cool. So, I mean, you started it in September last year, and I think you have 3 releases so far. And I mean, for you, what was the reason to start your own label, and how has the experience been for you so far?
I run my label because I was really desiring to have the chance to express myself at the 100% under every aspect. So since I have my graphic vision, I have my sonical vision, I know how to I know how I would love to see a label. So actually, I started the label just to express myself better. And actually, it's pretty challenging, I would say, because everyone had his day zero. So we have to keep fighting against and try to learn how to work. It's very, very nice. It's like having a child. It's very special. It's not super easy. For me, it's spontaneous as well. But I mean, it's not easy to take decision because the market, the business, the things are quite strange nowadays.
Yeah.
At the moment, the music industry is living strange times. So sometimes it's not easy to take the decision and decide what to release, or maybe tell people that you cannot release their music. You can receive a lot of great tracks, but you cannot help anyone because label is still small. You have to deal with a lot of promotion. You have to guarantee a nice result with the release you do. Otherwise, you are wasting someone else's music. And I don't want to do this. I want to respect your work.
I think probably, I mean, producers and people who are serious about techno will know that Italy has a lot of really great music coming out of it, but maybe not everyone knows that. But I mean, you have artists like yourself, Feels, Luigi Tozzi, Claudio PRC, Donato Dizzy, many people. I mean, what do you think is special about Italy? Like, why does it create so much great, intense techno music?
Well, we had a very nice artistic heritage here in Italy, as I guess the world knows. So we grow with like Italians. I mean, our parents used to say that Italians did very, very great artworks, did very nice painting, nice poems. So we are actually quite inspired because of this.
Great.
Then for the techno, I guess that many of us are doing techno because in Italy we never had a proper regular. I mean, we had techno scene, but it never been regular. So nothing for 15 years, nothing every Sunday. If not a few parties in Milan, a few in Rome. But in Italy, we never had a very regular and proper techno scene. So I guess that many of us were just trying with their mind to escape from here, trying to do techno and find themselves a way to live outside of Italy. In Italy, we have a lot of inspiration, but I guess we do techno to escape from Italy because there's no techno in Italy, and since there's no techno, we have to make it. We must make it. That's why many Italians are doing very, very nice techno.
Okay, I hope you found that really interesting, and I want to thank Pyramidal Decode for helping me out on this episode of Dystopia. I hope all of you who are listening learned some interesting things about his approach to music and maybe some interesting things that you didn't know about before. Right now we're going to slide into a 30-minute mix of his productions that I've curated myself, and I hope you really enjoy his heavy, hypnotic sound. And please stay tuned for more episodes of Dystopia to come. We've got a few very interesting artists lined up for future episodes, so enjoy the music.